Is Games Workshop actually moving the story forward with this new Warhammer 40K narrative campaign setting, the Nachmund Gauntlet? After all these years, is Abaddon going to get a proper win and really step into his own as the main antagonist of Warhammer 40K? Now, the Nachmund Gauntlet book is still a week away from release, but plenty of influencers have already gotten it in their hands, and there are a lot of screenshots of pages out there, and the new lore is quite awesome. It's actually insane. And it seems that Chaos has achieved a massive win and is cutting a path through the galaxy, straight for Terra itself. Abaddon's goal, and you'll know this if you've ever read Black Legion and the Talon of Horus books, but his goal is to literally take the throne, to kick the Corpse Emperor off the Golden Throne and seize power for himself. After all, in Abaddon's eyes, he and the original Legiones Astartes fought the enemies of mankind, and the Imperium was their legacy to the galaxy. From the Despoiler's point of view, the throne should be his, or some other Astartes by right. And if you've ever read The End and the Death 3, you'll know that despite everything, Abaddon is actually a pretty fair guy. He's on the side he's on, and fate has made it that way. But he isn't exactly a total monster. There are still some very human elements of him that remain. And he does have a sense of right and wrong, though a horribly twisted one. In his mind, whatever he has to do to overthrow the Imperium is justifiable. But he did let Garviel Loken live when he could easily have taken his life, seeing no need in continuing the killing. But yeah, fuck Erebus. Now, getting to the current lore, we see Abaddon leading his forces of Black Legionnaires against Vigilus in the Nachmund Gauntlet. Basically, he wants to control one of the main routes from Imperium Sanctus to Imperium Nihilus, and the Nachmund Gauntlet is a main route, if not the main route, through that part of the galaxy. So it is near Cadia, or what used to be Cadia, and even though the War Master got his jaw broken and withdrew from Vigilus, he committed a huge chunk of his resources to claiming the Nachmund Gauntlet. Enter the current lore, the new lore, and Haarken Worldclaimer, the Herald of the Despoiler, is dispatched to take the gauntlet. And he pretty much does. Abaddon tells him that don't worry about Vigilus, it will soon fall and he's got it under control. And then he gives Haarken one of the sickest things in Warhammer 40K to use. I can't even believe they busted this out, but the Planet Killer. The baddest ass ship in 40K, in my opinion. Basically, Abaddon has a super weapon ship that is pretty much a Death Star for Warhammer, and it is one of the coolest ships ever. But yeah, it has like 7 massive cannons that fire this beam that can smash planets. So Haarken goes on a tear, ripping it up, kicking ass and taking names, just destroying the hell out of the worlds surrounding Vigilus, and really gets the attention of the Imperium. Abaddon had thrown huge resources into attacking Vigilus in the last leg of the Nachmund campaign, and while he didn't take the world, he took everything around it, starting with Daravar. The Chaos fleets massacre everything around Vigilus. The planet, though it is a major war zone, and battles rage across it, becomes a place where millions flee to as they try to escape the wrath of Abaddon and the fury and butchery of Haarken Worldclaimer. And Chaos just rolls right through the gauntlet. At one end, near Imperium Nihilus, Vigilus stands. At the other end, near Imperium Sanctus, lies Sanguiterra and the Sanctus Wall, a series of fortified worlds that act as a buffer, a shield, between whatever comes through the gauntlet and Imperium Sanctus. There was a Space Marine coalition known as the Wardens of the Gauntlet among these forces, and they consist of dozens of chapters, some complete, others just straggler forces that have made their way to the Nachmund Gauntlet or otherwise came out of the warp near there due to shenanigans. Or there are even chapters whose areas of operation have been denied to them by Abaddon, and they are rallying there now. But Haarken destroys the Imperium's forces at Daravar and pushes on through the Gauntlet. All worlds are falling before him. While the Imperium dumped massive resources into protecting Vigilus, it won't do them much good because the traitor forces have cut that world off and surrounded it. There are no Imperial forces getting in or out of the system, and Haarken has Abaddon's word. Just push on through the gauntlet, and I've got Vigilus. That's exactly what Haarken does too. Following his victory at Daravar, Haarken now heads an enormous fleet bearing down on the wall. Lord Admiral Prisca fought a great battle that took a toll on the Chaos Fleet, but was ultimately just brushed aside, and some vessels were captured. So the Imperials don't have much of a fleet left now. And it is funny because the Chaos forces just capture as many of the Imperial ships as they can and grow their own massive fleet into something even bigger. None can stand before Haarken and his navy. In some ways, Haarken is getting more done than even Abaddon, and I wonder if they are setting the stage for the War Master's power to be challenged from within by his own right-hand man. So there are 4 major systems in the Sanctus Wall. Junith, Eroita, and Saint Celestine and their forces are there. And the Adeptus Sororitas, ever the zealous bunch, are just happy to have a fight where they can go off and die in the name of the Emperor. But the arrival of the Imperial Saint is seen as a sign that the Emperor is with them, and the Imperials get a massive morale boost from Celestine's presence. So before Haarken set off from Vigilus and Daravar to tear through the Gauntlet, Abby breaks out the Planet Killer, giving the Worldclaimer possession of it, and Haarken is taking it to break Sanguiterra. The Guardians of the Covenant Space Marine chapter, a Dark Angel's successor, stands against Haarken, and some seriously intense battles ensue. There are great heroics and great tragedies on both sides as the war cranks it up to 11. I once saw Slayer in the rain at night, and it was one of those mud pits. I kind of imagine this situation to be similar. Just a whirling, chaotic pit of violence with no real order to it, just attrition and massacre after massacre. Nobody can really see what's going on as they're deep in the mud themselves and can't take even a moment to step back and see the bigger picture. Imagine the Battle of Stalingrad in space with massive fleets and boarding actions and the most brutal hand-to-hand fighting imaginable. Both sides in it fully committed to victory or death. The Imperials know that if they fail, and they are literally on the verge of just that, then Chaos will have the power to threaten the Imperium unimpeded. They will have a clear path to the throne, and the Long War will be entering its final phase. Massive forces are arrayed on both sides. Many chapters of Astartes and the Chaos forces send pilgrims and refugees to Sanguiterra as infiltrators. Haarken's fleet breaches at multiple locations. They use the stolen ships from Admiral Prisca's fleet and transmit Imperial codes, a la Shuttle Tiderium, to break through the Imperial blockades. And I love this. I feel like it really is a nice nod to Return of the Jedi in the use of the Imperial codes, though older and a bit outdated to gain access. A nice little homage to one of the many great sci-fi franchises that heavily influenced the creation of Warhammer 40K in the 1980s. But Haarken unleashes absolute hell on the good guys. Massive fleet battles ensue, and it's pretty amazing. Space fleet battles are awesome, and this book gives us some of the biggest in the setting yet. Sons of Medusa join, their captain and their fleet team up with the Imperial Defenders. Haarken's fleet is just too massive though. Too great to stop. The Planet Killer is on Haarken's side, and he's setting the world on fire as an enormous battle is happening in orbit and around the planet and in the atmosphere before the Chaos troops even get there. Haarken's fleet surrounds and bombards the planet, weakening the defenses and landing zones. Chaos comes raining down out of the skies and drop pods fill the air. And the Black Legion arrives, ready to kick ass, but meets the resistance in the form of the Ultramarines. Of course, the Blue Boys are going to show up, considering everything that happened in the last campaign of Vigilus. Basically, Calgar faced Abaddon in a duel and broke Abby's jaw. Abaddon cut off some of Calgar's fingers and punctured his backup heart with the demon sword Dracnian, before having to teleport back to the Vengeful Spirit or be left behind. So the Imperials as a whole believed in the fog of war that Calgar had died. The reports got confused, and it was widely reported that he did perish, so he became a symbol of resistance, a martyr, even though in truth, he endured. So there are layers to this conflict, layers within layers. But the Ultramarines face Black Legionnaires of the Crimson Claw, and Tempestus Scions rake the enemy's flanks from Valkyrie gunships. Haarken shows up to secure victory personally. Haarken's Gloom Talons fight the Sisters of Battle, Night Lords fall from the heavens, Saint Celestine shows up to fight the Night Lords, Guardians of the Covenant show up to fight the Worldclaimer and break through his lines, but then get reversed on by Chaos Knights. Chaos overwhelms Nadith and the Third Company, and the Guardians of the Covenant fall back. Chaos is overwhelming and seemingly never-ending. A tidal wave of slaughter washing over the defenders. Celestine falls back, and a general withdrawal is ordered. Chaos Knights cut off the loyalist Titan legions as they try to get to the extraction zone to get off-world. They launch everything they can at the traitors. The battle gets intense, and a warlord Titan falls to a bloodthirster, who jumps on it and rips into it, exposing the princeps and crew of the Titan. But they played the demon and detonated the power core of the Titan, and it nuked the bloodthirster and a ton of chaos forces in the area. A heroic last stand and sacrifice by the Titan crew. But in the end, the inevitable could not be staved off. Sanguiterra has fallen. Haarken has claimed another world. The Nachmund Gauntlet is secure for the use of the War Master. Only Vigilus still stands, and Abaddon has that taken care of apparently. So that's where it seems to end, and it appears that Chaos has achieved a massive victory. They aren't going to let the momentum they've built up after the fall of Cadia go to waste. If Chaos has ever had the upper hand since the Horus Heresy, and if they've ever had the ability to seriously challenge the Imperium, it is now. With a clear path through to Terra, with Sanguiterra in the hands of the Despoiler, and with the Sanctus Wall shattered, it will take nothing short of a miracle to save the Imperium from the clutches of Abaddon the Despoiler. Now, I think this was both a great idea and a great way to move the narrative forward, and also a bad way to treat Abaddon. It seems that Abaddon, after getting just to the verge of killing Calgar, was given the short end of the stick by the writers yet again. I mean, the fan base already feels like he's useless in a lot of ways. Entire huge swaths of the community feel like he's just a meme. Abaddon the Armless and whatnot. So why then has his #1 lieutenant and his herald achieved so much on his behalf? Especially after he failed to achieve victory in the last episode of this narrative, the Vigilus Crusade. I think it is a wasted opportunity to build up Abaddon more, and to make him a proper antagonist. But I guess it must be said that it is probably more appropriate for him to have to build up his generalship, his leadership, and his authority. So what better way than to show one of his subordinates as being so absolutely capable? What do you guys think? What boons will the Old Four, the gods of chaos, heap upon the War Master because of this massive victory? Will this make him stronger? Did Games Workshop do the right thing with this campaign? And did they actually up the stakes in Warhammer 40K? Let me know in the comments. Kill for the living, kill for the dead.